And so we'll speak to what the Spiritual Deepening Program is, what its intention is, and how it comes to be for each of the cohorts. Okay, so the first cohort of the Spiritual Deepening began in 2006 as the kind of dream of Sister Ceci. For those of you who know Sister Ceci Corcoran, she's in the same community as Sister Johanna, Franciscan Sister of Perpetual Adoration. And at that time, we wanted, the Christine Center wanted something that was its flagship program. That is to say, that represented the whole of the Christine Center in all its various dimensions, and that folks who came would be able to experience the Christine Center as a kind of spiritual home and community. Of course, they would have other places where they felt at home and other places that were community, but that this really was an experience that came out of feeling at home spiritually and being nested in a safe community. That's supported, now here's the unique thing, that was supported by all of the streams of spirituality that two-leggeds might engage in. So that, in other words, if you're on a spiritual path, we hope you're at home here, and that you feel nurtured here, and that we try and allow for welcome to all. So all are welcome, and we wish for all who come depth. So we wanted a program that embodied that. Okay, so the Spiritual Deepening Program was born, and it was envisioned in a way kind of like spiritual formation, you know, in a particular tradition. So we looked at, since it was 5 nuns putting this together, we looked at how you do spiritual formation. And so the first year is dedicated to practice. And it's all about identifying and establishing spiritual practice and deepening in that, committing to that and deepening in that. The second year is all about making sure the whole of you is included in that practice, because we were very conscious that oftentimes when you're doing spiritual things, matter doesn't matter. Yeah, right, the body doesn't matter. See, the body is just like something you have to endure to get spiritual. But we wanted to really, given what the sisters were learning about cosmology and about earth awareness, wanted to be sure that the second year integrated matter and spirit. So it's all about including the body and what is the body and how we are body, cosmic body, communal body, country body, a family body. Do you see how that is, how we're connected? And in a way, deeply forming community in the process, because that's what body does, forms community. We are one body, you know, a community will say that. We move as a body. And then the third year is, well, given that we've learned this, now what? And looking specifically at, now what am I called to do, having deepened and having become more conscious and more aware. And one of the special dimensions of that third year is claiming spiritual leadership. So learning how to be comfortable with ritual, from very simple things, how to be comfortable leading a ritual with your family, to ritualizing for community, for a neighborhood, and to understand that ritual isn't just spiritual. So that a party is a ritual, and it has a spiritual dimension. A wake a birthday, an anniversary. These are opportunities to really become spiritual beings having a fully human experience. Do you see like that? So the third year is about creativity and expression and ritual and spiritual leadership. And to really understand our power as spiritual beings. Most institutional religion will assign that power just to ordained leaders. And this is so it's a very, if I may say, in a way, a kind of subversive year, because we're inviting everyone to claim their spiritual authorship and their spiritual power. So that in this Christine Center SDGT circle, there's a leader in every chair. Ha! And now that brings me to the formula of the SDGT. We do not have, quote unquote, the star teacher. What we have is this conversation circle, like you experienced it this weekend, where a topic is broken open, inquired into. The guides offer their perspective, and then we see what else lives in the room. The questions, the contributions, the gifts. There may well be someone in the room that knows more than we. Do you see that? And the opportunity to offer that gift, we're paying really close attention to inviting. Like it happened. We didn't plan that Margot would participate, but boy, wasn't it great she did? See? So the magic of how that unfolds as part of the spiritual deepening. Also, each spiritual deepening is its own entity. It has its own personality and its own texture, because the guides each time know differently. And so it's always different, and there are different guides, and that's the beauty of the spiritual deepening, that it is a unique experience. So once you do one, it isn't like now it's done. If you have the appetite, do another. Do you see? It's like that. And the community that develops is the most important aspect of the spiritual deepening program, because we're in a time where depth is necessary in groups. How to cultivate depth in groups rather than depth in one person alone. Yes, enough of that. But the idea of having a community, that doesn't mean it becomes exclusive, but you have this community. The other thing is the specifics of it. So if you say yes to the spiritual deepening program, you meet 6 times a year. You meet every other month, 4 times on Zoom for a Saturday, and twice for a long weekend that goes from Thursday night to Sunday. You probably feel it. You just finally get settled, and now you're packing up to go. All right, so we have the 2 long weekends. So you come on a Thursday and you leave on a Sunday. The weekends are for experiential things, like a lot of what we did, the opportunity for nature experiences, the sound experiences. The experiences will grow out of what the group presents and what we're capable of. But the weekends are highly experiential. The teaching happens on the Zoom calls, where there is a morning of teaching to which other people join. We make it available to the whole Christine Center family. But then in the afternoon, you are in a small group that is just SDGT, and then close out with a plenary that's just SDGT, so that even though there may be day guests in the morning, the interactions of the SDGT happens with the SDGT folks. So that, again, supports the community. And also it's the wear and tear of the travel and being here. It's much more accessible. We learned this because of COVID. See, this is the evolution because of COVID. So actually, the number of days you're meeting equals the 4 weekends we had previously, but it's in a much better rhythm that fits the time now. Okay. So and those are the specifics. I'd like to now invite the folks who are here who've been through the SDGT to speak a little bit about that. We gave them some questions. I'm going to read the questions, and then they'll have the pleasure of responding. So here's the first question. What prompted you to join the SDGT? And what are 1 or 2 gifts that you received? What are some spiritual surprises that came your way? How did the SDGT change you? And what wisdom would you offer someone considering joining the experience? So those were the questions. And let's see what they came up with. Is anyone ready to start? Kate, do you want to go first?
Sure. So I think that sheet said answer 1 or all, and I'm not going to do all, but I'm doing a few.
Whatever you want.
Okay. How did the SDGT change me? Well, my whole worldview changed. I think I've said that I started SGDT in St. Paul with Sister Dell, who was besties with Ceci, and I think they were starting it around the same time. In 2012, I did my first one, and then serendipity had it that I was sitting in circle at the Benedictine Center after the Woman Well closed, and one of my companions said, I'm going to start a spiritual deepening class at the Christine Center in Wisconsin next week. And I'm like, what? What? Tell me more about this. And she said, oh, you can't come. It's too late. It's been this whole process of interviewing and being accepted. And I'm like, oh, darn it. And Dell said, oh, I know somebody there. I can get you in if you want to go. So I came to cohort 5, and then and like Gabe just said, do it again, because it's not the same. 5 was not the same as what I did in St. Paul. 7 is not the same as 5 was. It's a whole new dynamic, and each one is just beautiful in its own right. So starting with back in 2012, how it changed me, it started with my worldview changing. My whole concept of God changed. What God looked like changed, because I was raised Catholic, where God was a white man with a beard, and he was up there somewhere, and he was... Wait, yeah. Oh, a little taller, but yeah. But he was scary, and you're not. And that was the God that if I wasn't good, I would be damned. I would go to hell, and that was scary. And then I remember, as part of the program, I read The Shack, and I don't know if any of you have read that book, but in that book, God shows up as a black woman who likes to cook. And The Shack was kind of a disturbing book, but deep. And I just was drawn to that image of God, and I wanted my God to be a black woman that cooked, not a white man with a beard. And so my concept of, I just started working into that, and then as I started to go deeper into the program and learned about the cosmology, that totally blew my mind. Like the flaring forth, as they like to say, the great flaring forth. I didn't have any exposure to that. I'd always loved the stars and stargazing, but I didn't know the history of the universe. I didn't know that it started 13.8 billion years ago. What surprised me the most was somebody said, if you take huge book, like the size of the Bible, and that is the history of the universe. Humanity shows up on the last page in the last paragraph. And that blew my mind. That really surprised me. I had no idea that we were so new to this. So now, my concept of God, well, so then I said to one of my spiritual directors, okay, so I went from white bearded man to black woman that cooks to this like energy. Now God is energy, but I don't like that God because I can't cuddle up with energy. And my spiritual director said, well, Kate, God can be whoever you want him or her to be right now. If you need a white bearded man that's like Santa Claus, that can be your God right now. If you need a black woman that's going to cook you dinner, that can be your God right now. If you need energy, that can be your God right now. So that broke me open a little bit, that I get God is who I need right now. So now my connection with the planet and her creatures is a relationship and a respect for her intelligence. I try to take a beat before I speak about something I dislike. I'm not always successful, but I try. I ask my ancestors to help me with whatever needs to be done today. I'm less fearful, despite the many scary things happening in the world. I know that everything changes except the love of Source that is within me and you and all of us and all things. You cannot come away from the spiritual deepening program unchanged. So what wisdom would I offer to someone considering joining? Something drew you here today. I would suggest it's your soul self. The knowing part of you, the intuitive part of you that wants to go deeper and wants to explore the inner and outer realms of spirit and be a part of the growing family that is contributing to global transformation through love.
Thank you, Kate. That was beautiful as always. I came here listening to, I came because I wanted to come to hear sound. So there was Ceci and Wendy who were offering a sound bath. So I came here and enjoyed that. And then found out about the spiritual deepening program. And Wendy had been through it and talked with me about it. And I thought, this is perfect. I love this place. I want to come back. So I did. And I think I'll talk a little bit about circle. There's some cards on the table here, and for those of you who weren't here when I mentioned it before, feel free to look at these and to take one that you enjoy, or take two, you know. I think there's one on the table that talks about the circle, and I can recite probably part of it. And it talks about, in the circle, there's no one ahead of you or behind you, above you or below you. All are equal in the circle. And everything is in the circle. All of the web of life is connected in the circle. So when Sister Gabe talks about all of us participating and being equals in the circle, it's true. That's exactly how it is. And I think what surprised me the most was how quickly everyone got to know one another and felt so comfortable in the circle. And there's such a trust and an openness of heart and of mind that it was just amazing at how quickly I changed and went deeper and became more intuitive and allowed my intuition to be my guide. And then the 3 years together are so wonderful because you form these friendships. I mean, Margaret and Kate and I were in the Spiritual Deepening 5 program. And after it ended, I mentioned something like, oh, wouldn't this be nice to have continue to someone I was with at the table, Meg. And Meg, with her wonderful brain, put together a questionnaire that I should give to everyone. And I did that. And the people who wanted to continue on, we meet once a month on Zoom. So we're companions. We have shared our life stories and where we are in our spiritual deepening. And it's just been a totally wonderful experience for me. And I'm really grateful to everyone who has been part of this. So I encourage you, if you are seeking, that this is a place where you can be who you are and grow in a way that you are intuiting growing, and all is accepted. So thank you. I think I'll once again express my gratitude, and I'm happy to be with all of you here this weekend as well. Okay.
Hello, everyone. Wanted to share, I was in group 5, and I found the Christine Center from the suggestion of a friend who we had both gone for many years to a retreat center in central Wisconsin. And she's like, yeah, I recently found out about this Christine Center, and it's really interesting. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. So I tried out first weekend retreat, and I remember calling the office and saying, which retreat do you suggest out of all the offerings? And the woman's like, oh, that's a hard one. And she said, well, you can't go wrong with compassion and loving kindness. That was a retreat that was being offered by Sister Johanna and Sister Henrita. And that was back in December of 2012. As it turned out, that was the same weekend of the Sandy Hook massacre. But it was, to come together in circle about compassion and loving kindness was so powerful to send that out to the world in a very difficult time. So I'm like, oh, this is a really interesting place. So I must have attended maybe about a dozen retreats, most of them around Sacred Sound, because that really resonated with me. And Sister Ceci, who you mentioned, kind of said to me, we've got this flagship program. You should consider it. And I was curious because, for the weekend retreats, you're there 2.5 days, and you don't really get to know the other people on the retreat. You're kind of like, oh yeah, white sweater. Oh yeah. You don't really get to know other people, and I could sense there was a lot of depth of other people that were coming on retreat. And I'm like, this would be interesting to be in a 3-year program to not only learn from wisdom guides, but also from the other people in the circle. So I did that. And one of the things I wanted to touch upon is that the food here at the Christine Center is amazing on purpose, made with a lot of love. And at first I was trying to think of an analogy to the food that is offered here at the Christine Center. And at first I thought that the spiritual deepening for global transformation is like a smorgasbord, of different ideas. I'm like, no, that's not the right metaphor. It's more of a potluck. We're all bringing something, and we're all sharing of that. But I would add that it's kind of a curated potluck. I don't know if that's, what that is that such a thing? that there's so many modalities and ways to engage in the spiritual path, and to have a group of guides that curate it for you, that these are people that I trust with my spirituality, with my soul. I trust Sister Gabe, I trust the sisters, and I trust the guides here, that they've gone deep, and they're bringing the very best that they know to the potluck. So kind of a curated potluck. So, and what I found is that what surprised me is that we really bonded, our group bonded, and we call each other, I think Sheila came up with this phrase, we call each other spiritual companions on the journey. And like our emails to each other are always, dear companions on the journey, dear, and we ended up with a lot of women and 2 men. So I say it's companions on the journey and a pair of brothers, and it's just. So what's been surprising is that bond that we have, and that we have decided we meet as for a reunion retreat that we plan every fall. And then during COVID, we decided it was an opportunity to go even deeper. And there was this thing called Zoom. And we started doing that. And that continues the deepening. And we've gone pretty deep. And it's like, we talk about this all the time. It's like we have each other's backs, because we know each other. We've been through this experience. We've gone through many journeys together. And we have each other's backs, and we support each other. And that, I think, is something really special that these circle encounters over a 3-year period can really foster. So, what wisdom would I share? Do it. It's worth it. People are like, oh, it's 3 years. It's like, well, 3 years are going to pass anyhow. You might as well make it worthwhile. And we need each other during this time. Things are really chaotic, and we need each other. We need this grounding. We need this food. We need these circles. So do it. Just do it.
So Kate, Sheila, and Margaret, thank you so much. I hope you feel the reception that you received from us. There is such resonance in the room. So here's for asking any questions or making any comments to help your discernment. Those of us who are here as guides this weekend are at your service. So if there's anything you want to know or ask, this is the opportunity to do that.
I'm curious about year 3. And so I used to be an administrator of a clinic, and so I'm very, let's have a plan and let's know what our plan is going to be. And even though I've been retired from that for 3 years, I still sort of have that mindset. And so when we came here and it was said, like, this is the time we have been waiting for. This is the time we have wanted. It insanely powerful. I'm like, boy, I don't know that I wanted this. But then I've been thinking about it as the days have gone on, and I feel like there is the planner in me feels like in year 3 there's this big picture, something that we all do together. Is that, I'm not necessarily hearing that that's the plan, but can you talk about year 3 and how that looks. I get year one, I understand year two, year three is posing a bit of a challenge for me right now.
So, as you probably have guessed, we're great believers in intuition. So we now, as a team, the team that is SDGT 8 has a flavor of people who've been attracted. We have the bones of the first year being deepening in personal spiritual practice. So then we look at each other and say, what can you offer? What can you offer? What can you offer? And then, what did you hear on this experience? And we put together the specific content. Huh? And so this past year, let me tell you what we did for the first year of SDGT 7. We began by speaking the first time we were together, because we haven't done the second together yet. So the first time together, we were deeply involved in laying out possibilities for spiritual practice. You know, we had people, and we have at this time too, people from many different spiritual traditions, and so we offered practice the first weekend together, practice in those traditions. What was that like? How did it go? What are your questions? You know, so meditation, centering prayer, indigenous experiences. So it was all experiential, and then we talked about it. See, so it like offers you the exploration and opportunity to say, well, this has been my practice. I don't know about it. What can you say about that? So that. Then we did, for the 4 sessions of monthly, and help me folks remember what they were. The first one was cosmology. We have to know where we come from. So I took us on a cosmological ride from the very first flaring forth to the current moment of unfolding and infolding. And so that was like a grounding for us. The second one was you, right? Say what you did.
We went through human history of consciousness evolving, speaking to the different structures that have evolved over the millennia, and where we are now, which is an integration of all of these structures that are reemerging. And we're moving beyond the mental structure, which has ruled us, which is, God knows, ruling, trying to rule. Left brain, rationality, that's it. Everything else is old, worthless stuff. But that's not what's happening now. So here we are. This is a new, some call it a mutation, a structure of consciousness, an integration without all the baggage, like superstitions that have gone before. And this has been predicted for a long time by many astute observers, that we would go through this, and here we are. So we talked about that, and we experienced that as best you can on a Zoom. And that's what we're doing here now. You're experiencing the primordiality, you're experiencing meditation process, you're experiencing what's emerging and calling each of us. It's calling each of us. It's so obvious that the old processes are disintegrating. What's coming in? So as David likes to say, we're planting seeds. We're planting seeds. And it behooves all of us to tend our garden.
Yeah, that's a lovely way to say it. to explore the story. And we focused particularly on how these things are maps. So the map of the unfolding of the universe, the map of the unfolding of consciousness, human consciousness. And then we went into the map of psychology, and we did dreams. We used dreams as the portal to explore the evolution of psychology. And we had a session on the laying out of different ways humanity has worked with dreaming, up from, and then especially focusing on the evolution from Freud to Jung and into post-Jungian use of dreams. And then this last Zoom session that we had was on personal maps, our personal map evolution, and how that either limits or frees us, and what happens when the internal map changes. And then, as I recall now, we were in together, so May, November were the 2 weekends, and we were here together as a SDGT 7 the weekend after the election. You can imagine the energy in the room. And so we honored that energy and worked with it. See, so I can't tell you exactly, because we're together in this evolution. It is not a canned program. See, that's the other risky thing. We're at risk with you as a team. Any other team members want to say anything? Does that answer your question?
It does, and just because I feel like I really want to say this, I'm so surprised at all the joy that I feel here, and I'm like, I haven't felt joy since the election. Well, that's wrong, but I'm really surprised at how that's showing up for me in these, standing out looking at a tree, or doing intuitive painting, or the meditation yesterday while we're sitting. Like, I'm so surprised at the kind of joy. And I also want to say that there's a woman who has gone through one of the programs so Deb Murray is her name, and I don't know if okay. So I didn't know she was in the program, and I was on the Zoom call on Mind, our personal maps, and I saw her on the call, and I didn't say anything to her, but I always have watched her and thought, you're the coolest woman I've ever, and she's got this vibe and this energy, and I'm like, damn, I am on the right path. This is it. So anyway, thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Partly in response to your question and my own wrestling, thinking, navigating at this time. So I've been an exec in a lot of different organizations, including the one I like to mention right now. I was a senior person at the Kennedy Center. You know, who just appointed himself president. He also appointed himself chief ballerina, by the way. I just thought I'd mention that. I only bring this up because of something that's been deeply influential for me in looking like, oh, you need to know where you're going, so you need to have a plan, right? And we gave up 5-year strategic plans years ago because they were like bullshit and the world is changing too rapidly. So I'm really drawn to this work right now in my own continuing work, because we need to develop a set of skills and insights and knowledge and shifting patterns to be creative forces for what needs to be part of what is becoming, even as we manage the day-to-day of an organization and get stuff done and meet a deadline. That's there, that's gonna happen. We need to do that. Jonathan's living in multiple worlds at the same time, like stuff needs to get fixed. Budgets need to be met. Electricity needs to work, right? We know that. And a deeper pattern is shifting. So I'm looking forward to just sharing personal experiences of the shift underway. Some of you might know the phrase, the axial age. This is like described in some ways as the second axial age. That's just when the whole wheel turns. And just a final word, The old maps won't get you there. So a book that's had an enormous influence on me is called Deep Survival. And one of the takeaways from that book is admit when you're lost. Admit when you don't have a map. That's the beginning. And I find that here. And yep, bills got to be paid, stuff's got to happen. But admit we don't have a map, but we have each other.
Thank you.
I'm curious if there's any connection in between the every other month gatherings. And even you mentioned, Kate, reading a book. Is there like homework assignments? I like homework. So just curious.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So everything is a suggestion. Yeah, and what happens is we put up, whenever we're together in person, we put up lists, and we all make suggestions to each other. This is a book, and here's what I got from it, like that. And so then we have that list gets sent out. If we as guides have some preparatory reading for the Zoom meetings, that gets sent out. The woman who on staff who will be doing that beautiful connecting for us is Robin, help me with her last name. Robin Richards. She's with her family this weekend, and we bless her in that important time. But she is the Christine Center person that will be doing all that connecting with you. And so that this program is nested right into the staff of the Christine Center, unlike the other programs that come and go. Do you see, that's the difference of this program. This belongs to the Christine Center. And so Robin will be our connector. Of course, we have the privilege of Jonathan with us, who's the executive director. It's like the old days, the executive director is in the circle. So, and Rosalie, too, is deeply invested in the center. Ron is one of our regular program persons, and David has done work with our board. So it's we feel like this is home work. Home, we're working together. But there's no mandatory homework. And it's really, this is about cultivating the discipline for your own depth, yeah? So no one's going to do it for you. But you get lots of tips and suggestions from each other. Plus, you get to bring tips and suggestions. That's the beauty of it, this cross-fertilization that happens.
I was thinking about joining Group 7, but it meets in May, and that's gardening time, so that's sacred. What are the dates for Group 8 for the in-person?
I'm sorry, I was distracted.
Yeah, what are the dates for the in-person gatherings for Group 8? Do we know that?
I have them on my calendar, but my calendar is not here.
Jonathan's got
I'm
it.
so sorry. The first one's August. Yes, August. The first one's in August. Group 8 begins in August.
August 14th through the 17th. And then the next in-person is February 12th through the 15th.
Okay.
And the dates are on the website. So if you open up the website.
They're not, actually. They're like the 2024 dates in most places, but I found one magical place where.
Oh, yeah.
I just found August. I couldn't find the others.
Mea culpa. Sorry about that. We've fallen short if that's not on the website.
It is on the website. I can't tell you where, but I've written them all down. So,
Yeah, you have to.
I don't know
you
where
have to
where it
click
was.
3 times in.
Yes, that's what it was. Like there was several, like a magical path to find the right dates. They're on there, but they were still 2024 in a few spots.
Well, I've got February 11th through the 14th in 2026 is our next. Maybe you said that already, Jonathan. And then October 10th is online, December 12th is online, April 10th is online, and April 12th is online. And you can hopefully, I didn't tell the years, but you can.
When you're on there, just make sure that you're, because there's 2 programs right now, just to make sure that you're in the right one. This is how I navigated to it, and I apologize, I don't know if there's a secondary way, but when you're on the program offerings page, and you just scroll to our weekend here that we just are doing now, and you just click on that. So I'll just quick show you. Will you hold the mic for me? So if you just scroll, and you see here is our weekend, this little icon, the little bird thing, just click on that. And it'll bring you, to our weekend. And then just click on, there's a button here that says just registration, which you should click on anyways because you're going to register. And then, sorry, I can't do this sideways. Oh, I take that back. You want to click on Learn More about SDGT, which is right below the registration button. And then you'll get taken to a page that has all of our beautiful photos here. And then the schedule is just right here at the bottom. So yeah, it's a bit nested, and we'll make that maybe a little easier.
Track Learn More. Learn more. Just keep hitting Learn More.
Learn deeper, learn deeper.
I was just going to add to answer your question about, I think you were pointing to the idea of personal connection for people in between these dates, and the possibility for that, and that there isn't a formal process for that that's set up. But I know, like a couple of weeks ago, a couple of women who became friends, who met each other at the SDGT, were here for a personal weekend and spent time together here at a private retreat at the Christine Center. So some personal relationships often, almost always come out of it. And there's the opportunity that the 5 people, group 5 people, show that they hung on to each other over many years now.
Yeah.
A marriage.
Yeah. The other thing that happens is it's intuitive and organic in that, for example, in SDGT 7, the Illinois people found each other and they're meeting. So so you have the opportunity to get what you need if you express the need. You ask for what you need and you offer what you can, and then it unfolds that way. Beautiful, thank you. I'm sensing enthusiasm, so I'm getting happier and happier over here.